Good morning, everybody. Welcome into the PM and AM show. I'm with my right-hand man, as always, my man Mike Lauer. What's up, Mikey?
Oh, good morning there, Patrick.
And, of course, the man producing the show, as always, my man Al Safir. What's up, Al?
I'm just glad I'm not any of his hands.
Oh.
The war stories those hands could tell.
And
gosh.
what's up? And I'm your host, Pat Bernard. And listen, guys, last night, or yesterday rather, for 12 hours, I was laying on the bed, feet up in the air, and I was taking in all the action. I was, I mean, well, I mean, as far as sports, I mean, there was a lot of sports action. You know what I mean? You had your Sixers, and look, just like my day, it started out nice and comfortable, but then it got painful and sore, and then became numb to the feeling. And then, the Sixers were playing well, and then the Phillies just left you sore and numb.
Yeah. That Phillies game was tough to watch.
It was tough.
Good game by the Sixers.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, what's with this? We'll get into it, but it's just, you have a good game, and you're like, okay, they could build off this, and they come out and just S the bed.
Yeah.
Huge.
Totally flatten the tire. But anyway, let's talk about these 10-9-8 76ers, because this is why we brought in P.J. Tucker. For his offensive rebounds, for his production in the paint. And, man, he was just dominant yesterday. Just seven offensive rebounds for P.J. Tucker. This is what we play, what we look towards. And, we look as him to be a little bit of an issue through the regular season. But right now is why he's here, is to give you that productivity in the paint, like, Mike, you were alluding to. And, the bench really stepped up yesterday. And I was kind of glad to see what the bench has done, for the little sample size they had for the two meaningless games. It really did that bench a solid, because they came out swinging yesterday. And guys like D-Ball Paul played really, really well in the paint, taking care of business. James Harden, 7 threes yesterday. 7 threes, pullback threes. I love everything he's doing. So, Mike, I'm going to pass it to you. What's your take about yesterday's game?
Tobias Harris is back. Playoff Toby's here. Again,
hopefully.
Well, I mean, hopefully he does. But I mean, this is the time of the year where all the people who want to trade him and get rid of him are kind of biting back. He had 21 points yesterday. In what was it, 28 minutes here? Yeah, 28 minutes, 21 points. So, I mean, I'm glad to see that. But, Pat, to bring up your point about the bench, dude, they got really good contributing minutes. I mean, Reed with 12 points, McDaniels with 5, George Niang with 8, Melton with 6. I mean, even Shake Milton even had a bucket in there, and he only played 3 minutes. So, like, for me, my worrying issue right now, my only worrying issue is Maxey. Because to me, it seems like he fades away. And I'm sorry, but the Sixers are going to need him.
Yeah. You know what? And I get what you're saying. I do. I'm not as worried just based on yesterday's game. There's always got to be somebody. If some people like Harden had a game. I mean, Harden.
Right, and I don't think that's going to be sustainable.
I think I put in our message group yesterday. I like this James Harden.
Yeah.
I think those were my exact words. But if Harden's having a game, I mean, like Embiid had a game too. Don't get,
Embiid's game yesterday. Look, I mean, granted, he dropped 26.
Yeah.
But him dropping 26 is like
it's
a norm.
It's a normal thing.
It's not impressive.
He was a little under, I thought, with the rebounds. I mean,
but that's 5. My point. If Harden and Tucker and Tobias are going to have a game, the ball's got it's somebody else has got to have it's got to sit back. So my thing is that's what makes yesterday really good. And if you look at the the game tracker on this, like you look at the stat lines, is the lead tracker. It just kept getting. It was like usually it's it's up and down. It will go. Sometimes it'll change leads to the other team. It was all blue, and a blue wave that just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That's what you really need to see. That's what you like to see. Now, listen, is that going to happen all the time? No. This is against the Nets team who doesn't really have a true blue superstar.
The only one they got is Bridges.
Is Mikal Bridges.
Villanova star.
Who should have been a Sixer. I'm never going to let that go. I'm
Me
sorry.
neither.
That's going to be one of the top big problems that the Sixers are always going to kick themselves
For
about.
Isaiah, what was it? What was it? Who they get for him?
Zaire Smith.
Yeah, Zaire Smith, who
who
never.
doesn't even play.
Yeah.
But let's not get into that detail. But my point is,
Thanks, Brian Colangelo.
yeah, it's a 20-point game in your first game of a playoff series. I don't care how good or bad a team is compared to another. That doesn't usually happen.
I mean, look,
But
Boston struggled yesterday with Atlanta. I mean, they beat them 112-99, but like Atlanta was hanging around.
Yeah, they were giving their fits.
They were giving them fits. Yeah, exactly.
And like I saw a lot of turnovers that the Sixers were causing for the Nets. Just in the paint, they played very, very well. And like you guys said, Mikal Bridges dropping 30 points. Again, that's the only weapon they have.
25 of those points came in the first half.
Right.
So
in that second quarter, he was really, really lighting
what was
it up.
nice to see was they still made adjustments, even though they seemed to have them in control the entire time.
Hey, I'm looking on here,
Uh-huh.
and I see Ben Simmons put up his usual numbers.
Yeah, he's Captain Consistency. That's what we call him.
Yes, he's back of a milk carton. But anyway, to
His
piggyback
back's on the back of a milk carton.
hello. But to piggyback off you, Mike. We're talking about Embiid here.
Enough piggybacking, man. My back's hurt.
I like piggybacking off the fellas. But anyway, listen, like you said, he didn't have too much offensive production. Obviously, 26 is like his norm. But however, him being he was more of a contributor, just finding guys on the perimeter wide open. Obviously, he was taking a 301 on defense, but still.
Well, he had 3 assists. I mean, listen, his numbers aren't gaudy. I mean, he had 2 blocks yesterday. So, I mean, that was kind of good. But the thing, what gets me? I'm looking at his field goal percentage. He was 11 for 11 on the field.
Yeah.
That's pretty darn good.
The only thing that scared me about him yesterday is when he went up for the dunk in the third quarter and he got swiped going across the face. I thought, oh, boy. And the way he fell.
Oh, yeah, when he took his tumble, everybody did that. I think
lost their breath.
Yeah, I think there's I forget one of them.
Let's wait for the fan of the mask to come
Yeah,
out. The fan of the opera mask to come out.
Yes.
I'm not BSing, but I think somewhere one of the sport had a bet of like him breaking his face for the third time.
Right, and that's like I said. I was a little worried after that. I said, "Oh boy, here we go." But no, he fought through this. He again playing very well.
Like I'm not trying to be the Debbie Downer or the Davy Downer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. But ain't they supposed to do this to Brooklyn?
Yes.
Well, no, you're right. And that's why, in one breath, what a game yesterday. But at the same time, this isn't where I'm pounding my chest and said, "Bring on whoever's next." You know what I mean?
Right.
Because this is the kind of game that they can come back and lose game 2, and if they can come here and get game 2, win the first 2 games in Philly, go 2-0. Was it Monday? Is the next game? Then it's pretty much. The best case scenario for the Nets will be a gentleman's sweep.
Right.
But I'm not going to get excited about it either. Like you said, this is what's supposed to happen. We just haven't seen it yet. That's why it's exciting. You haven't seen it yet. I mean, if you think about it, we played the Wizards one first series, and they gave us fits. That series went longer than it should have. Every time, these first series go longer than they should. The Sixers are healthy. Right now, knock on wood. They're playing well. They're still playing well. They're beating teams they need to beat, not just beating them, but beating them rightfully. So things are going the right way as of one game in one playoff.
So let me ask a question for you guys is like, when do you start, I guess, maybe thinking it's for real? Like, do they have to get past whoever they play in the second round?
Well, here's my thing is there's a good chance the second round is going to be
Boston. Listen, and I've been on record as saying I am rooting for the Sixers, but if they match up against Boston, I will still root for the Sixers, but I don't think they got a chance in hell in winning that series.
It'll be interesting.
I don't
think anybody's going to go there and put their life savings on Sixers winning that series. But here's my thing is the ultimate second round. We all said they had to get past the second round. Now, if we all said they had to get past the second round knowing they're playing the Celtics, it's like, all right, it's a little different story now. The Celtics just have had our number, except for that one game. That
I mean,
you know.
listen, if you watch, besides opening night, the 3 games after that have been close. I mean, so it's like, they lost opening night, and then they played them again. When they played them the second time, I think the Celtics won by a few points. There's our boy Insanio checking in, says, knowing the NBA and how they schedule games, 2 is between today and next Easter.
Yeah,
He ain't lying.
pretty much. Yeah,
It's like, oh, wait a minute, you played last night? God, take 3 days off.
Yeah, well, I mean,
and then, like I said, that's another thing too. Like, okay, they're like you guys are just saying, the Sixers are scoring in transition, and they're finding guys wide open. I mean, again, good ball movement, good, finding guys, and like
Good ball movement.
good ball movement.
Said moment, dude. That's why I was about to say the ball had a moment.
Well, look, PJ Tucker
was
was. But anyway, PJ Tucker was left wide open on the perimeter all day long.
Well, that's what they've been doing. They've been allowing guys. They were double teaming Embiid all day, and then there was somebody was going to be open, and those guys were hitting.
Yeah, on the perimeter.
That's why it was a 20-point differential.
Well,
I mean,
Miami did that in the last series, or towards the end of the year.
Yeah,
when they switched up, they put they switched up on what the hell was it? They had Butler guarding Joel.
Yeah.
And it was Butler and Haslam were kind of like double teaming them, and then they had the other guy. What the hell's the other guy's name for Miami? The other superstar. They had him. What's that?
The guy from Toronto?
Yeah. You know who I'm talking about.
He went to Villanova.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They had him going. They had him guarding Harden.
Yeah.
And it really played into so. In other words, it was like, we're going to double him and have Jimmy, have Butler follow him and kick it out. And if you remember, the Sixers had trouble shooting in that game.
Well, the Nets tried the same thing. They were hitting.
They just ain't got the defensive personnel.
No, they were trying. You saw one time where Harden did kind of messed up. The ball kind of went behind him. But yeah, against a better defensive player, that's going to be their game plan. Get on Harden, bringing the ball up, make it harder for them. Get that 8-second transition. See if they can make a tight window for him. And they're going to try double teaming Joel. And if this team continues to be smart, you will see them get guys wide open. Paul Reed, man, again,
Paul,
he is growing in front of our eyes, and it's a good thing
at the right time.
I mean, he got 11 points yesterday off the bench. I mean,
off
he was
the bench.
Only bench player with double digits.
The only thing that can scare you about this team is it being inconsistent, like the bench being inconsistent from the perimeter. I mean, luckily yesterday they're getting all their shots. But it could be wound up like this Phillies team where the offense could be here one day and gone the next. So that's where you're hoping that it doesn't fall apart. But again, guys being found wide open, passing the rock around at the right time. Again, with all eyes on James Harden, you don't know what he's going to do with the rock. And that's why I love him. Because he hits the pullback threes. He can find guys in spacing.
Well, he does now. That was the thing, is this James Harden didn't do that last year.
Right.
No, I mean, it proves in the pudding. Dude, he had 13 assists yesterday. He had double yesterday.
Yeah.
This dude's he's definitely facilitating everything.
And they let him shoot, and they let him shoot. And I'm like, we have no choice now. Like they knew they were shot in the foot early. Like they started pulling guys out much earlier in a playoff game than you ever see them do. I know it's a game one, so it's easier to pull guys and live to see another day. But that's demoralizing. I don't care how good or bad the difference between one team to another is from a talent standpoint. That's demoralizing.
And like I said, the last couple of games of the Sixers regular season, where they're just throwing in just bench guys, actually really, really helped them. It's kept the bench fresh, where they're now contributing big time for you. And again, like you said, like you guys said, it's the Nets. We're not really, having our pickles out, but you know what? It is what it is. You know what I mean?
Dude.
What? Sorry, halfway. We're almost there.
I mean, there's a playoff game. There's a playoff game, and Shake Milton had 2 points. So I mean, let that sink in. You know what I mean?
Well, look at it. If you really look down from Shake, was it Daniel House, Corkmon, Springer, and Harold, all each only had 2 minutes, and that was probably the final 2 minutes.
I mean, Georges Niang, he had a couple 3-points.
Yeah, bang bang, Georges Niang.
I mean, the thing is, that kind of game can't happen all the time because they're all not going to be hot on the same day. It's not going to happen.
Right. And like I said,
what your hope is, out of the 4 main guys that they're going to use off the bench, which is Melton, Niang, McDaniels, and Reed. All right. Yeah. And I'll even throw Shake in there too. out of those 4 guys, you're hoping at least 2 of them are hot when they
Right.
come in and sub in and out.
Yeah. And having 2 guys over 20 or 3 guys over 20 points is huge.
Right.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like Mike said, 26 from Embiid is like, it's
It's nice.
it's nice, but
It's the norm.
listen, it's good. Let's call it for what it is. It's just not what we're used to seeing from him. But he didn't need to do that. I think that's what I take away from that. He didn't need to be 48 points, 52-point Joel Embiid because he was getting help from all around. You have 21 points from Tobias Harris, 23 points from Harden. You saw 13 points from Maxey, which isn't a bad night. It's just the distribution was more spread out. And I'm okay with that. That means it's almost like, I want to say, giving somebody a night off, but Embiid didn't have to feel like it has to be all Embiid all the time because it's going to be that way.
Right.
It's not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe any time during the
Maybe
series,
round 2.
but round 2 and on, it's gotta have to be the Embiid show.
Right.
But the fact that you're showing these guys that we don't have to do that every game, you just put the league on alert at that point.
Right. And speaking of, like I said, it was obviously a mismatch between Embiid and whatever they had underneath the paint because there was no one who could stack up with him. But even still, like if he wasn't, like whatever they threw up in the air, PJ Tucker was coming down with. Again, 7 offensive rebounds. That's great. This is what he's here for. Low in the paint, getting you your
The offensive
rebounds.
rebounds are huge.
Yeah. And then, like I said, the bench really coming up, stepping up, and contributing. And B-Ball Paul doing his thing. And again, you cannot be other than really, really impressed
I
with
mean,
you've seen.
you had 14 offensive rebounds across the team in the whole game. They don't usually get that. That's like double what their normal amount is. So that's huge, and that's PJ Tucker. That's the PJ Tucker effect right there.
Yeah.
So
Playoff PJ.
yeah, I mean, like we said, everybody kept saying he's here for the playoffs. He's here for the playoffs, and he's here, and it's the playoffs. So maybe he will be that defining piece that will help us get over that second round hump. And maybe, like I said, if they can go in the second round and they play the Celtics and they beat them, I mean,
Sky's the limit because
Yeah.
I feel like Boston's the Sixers' only hurdle.
Right.
So if they beat Boston, like not only are they going to the NBA Finals, they're winning it. Like I don't like the only way the Sixers don't win the NBA title, and that's if they lose to Boston in the second
I
round.
mean, I'm not going to look past Milwaukee in any
Wow.
which way.
I'm not looking
But I
past
think
anybody.
we
but-
match up.
You match up. The Sixers match up very, very well with Milwaukee.
Yeah. Steve
Okay.
saying there they had a plan, they executed it. Which yes, Steve has it. That's a good point. There was a plan. Joel's going to get double teamed, hence why he had 26 points. But that's fine. The points came from somewhere else.
Yeah, and
Because
the
extra 10 points went to Harden, and 5 of those points also 5 points went to Tobias. You know what I mean? So if they didn't double team Embiid, it would have probably been the same score outcome, but it would have been Embiid with like 40 points. The other guys, just 15-point difference would come from the other guys.
Right.
That's all. But Niang, he said Niang should be stable to the bench once they play a team with sticky defenders. I don't think Niang, I don't think Milton, any of those guys you saw, a lot of those guys you saw yesterday are going to have much of any game time except maybe Paul Reed, a couple other guys. So this is just because of the matchup.
And just think about it, 19 threes from the perimeter from this team. 19 threes. Again, Tobias Harris, 3 for 3. You had James Harden dropping, 7 threes. I mean, very, very impressive stuff from this team. This is stuff you want to see. Again, and you took care of business in the paint. And especially, like you said too, Al, the minute, everyone probably from the Brooks side, in the net side of things, like, okay, we got Embiid's on the bench taking a break. This is where we could start doing our thing here. And no, B-Ball Paul taking care of business. Low in the paint. You saw the crossover move he hit. You saw the layup moves. I mean, again,
I think B-Ball Paul found B-Ball Paul.
Yeah,
I always used to make a joke. I said, B-Ball Paul's trying to do the worst impression of Joel Embiid I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I think he finally said, I'm just going to be my own guy. I'm not going to beat Joel Embiid. He's not, I mean,
No.
He'll never be Joel Embiid, but he can have a great career if he just plays the game. And look, he is a big guy, but he's also an athletic guy. And if he just keeps doing, you saw that move he made, like if he keeps doing that and getting to, like I said, the problem we always had is when a big came in for Embiid, it was hold your breath time. It was hold your breath, and hopefully
The only time it wasn't is when they had Andre Drummond.
and it was hopefully that the points we don't start losing the differential, and just keep our head. We didn't want pluses, we just didn't want negatives. Like if we stayed the same, we were okay. And you gave Joel his his little break, his little powder, and then he was good to go. But now with B-ball Paul, you're actually gaining points and making it a game. So there's your two major differences. You got a guy like Tucker who's going to get you those offensive rebounds, who's going to be in there, kind of like what Steve said. He put his hard hat on and went to work, and there's the other big difference. And if we can get a semblance of this James Harden and Tobias Harris, I'm not saying it's going to be like that every night, 21 points, 23 points, but if we can have that kind of play from them every night.
Well, like I said, it's a dynamic duo of Joel Embiid and James Harden. Like you're going to put 3 defenders on Joel Embiid. Okay, well then like you said, there's going to be someone wide open. When you have everything figured out with James Harden, he's got someone wide open in transition about to drop a 3. And like Mike said, if Maxey can step up a little bit more, and we all know he's a fire, he's a ball of energy. But if he can start putting some more buckets in there, look out. And like you said, your X factor is Tobias Harris. And if going 3 for 3 from the perimeter and his elbow jumpers, he's, like I said, what really could stand this team's way. And like I said, I know I got the blue and red sunglasses on for today, but like I said, I still can't count out because this is a Philly and New York battle. And, you have to still throw that stuff out the window. Now, regardless, we saw yesterday, the Nets only have 2 guys they can rely on. But it's not going to take hard for the coach to figure out what he needs to do. But still, it's just too much problems that the Sixers offer you right now. And
especially this matchup. I mean, the term lopsided doesn't do it any justice.
No,
Nets and Sixers, and real quick, like I said, the game is coming up is Monday, and you can't get them. Where I go to sharestickets.com. You guess what, guys? You're not going to get at the end like, oh, I got my Sixers playoff tickets, and then you get to check out and you go, wait, where's this $200 coming from? Fees, get the hell out of here. Nope, won't get that. No hidden fees, great prices, and you get an additional 10% off by using the promo code EOP10 at sharestickets.com. And I'm sure if you keep your eye out, if this team makes a run and they had traveling, just keep looking at phillysportstrips.com. A lot of things coming up now between the start of the summer and into the summer. Go to phillysportstrips.com and tell them that PM in the AM and EOP sent you.
Well, there you go. So real fast before we shift gears here. So Mike, what's your takeaway about this yesterday's game? The one major takeaway that you have.
The one main takeaway is that the playoffs are here. The guys that perform well in the playoff team, or that perform well in the playoffs, guys like Tucker, Tobias Harris, they showed up yesterday. They got to continue to show. That's my one takeaway, because at the end of the day, Harden's points are going to fluctuate. Embiid's points are going to fluctuate.
Yeah.
And Max, you'll be trying to fit and get his.
As you get later, the Embiid points are going to go up.
Right.
And the other team, the points are going to go down.
Right.
And like I said, that's why I wasn't super worried about the Maxey thing. Somebody had to not get a ton of points, but he still got 13 points. He made 3 threes. And he did his job. I mean, if you got 3 other guys scoring 20 plus points, then Maxey getting anywhere from 13 to 15 points is okay with me.
Yeah, it's balanced scoring. But
only one ball.
If you're saying it's a gentleman's sweep, I think it's going to be just a
plain old fashion.
Yeah, they're going to break the brooms out.
Yeah,
and I don't.
I just.
It's just too much on Mikal Bridges.
No, I get you, and I think they'll make some adjustments. The only reason I'm thinking gentleman's sweep is because there'll be one game where this team just, if they beat them Monday, then there's going to be a letdown game, I think, somewhere in New York, in Brooklyn, because the team's just going to be like, if they go 3-0 against them, I can see them dropping the 4th game just because they kind of think they have in the bag and they just keep it too close than it needs to be and bring it, and it has to come back to Philly, and then they'll just make it a 50.
Yeah, but ain't that what Sixers teams in the past did? They kind of took their foot off the brake.
True.
Like, if you want to see a change, like I want to see a change in philosophy. No, you got them 3-0, man. Step on their throat. Take them out.
I'm with you.
Yeah, take them out. Like, I mean, as much more time now as you get the rest, leading into the next series? Because I really do believe Atlanta's going to give Boston a fight.
I think so. I mean, you got a guy like Trae Young who,
I mean,
young,
you got
wiry,
him, Capella down there.
Guy can hit a 3 from half court like
Yeah.
normal people can hit a 3.
Oh, what's the other kid's? The young kid's name down there, the young forward down there that's a stud. He was slamming the ball all over the Sixers before the Sixers beat them. But I mean, they got a nice little young, 3 down there too. And like I said, with Boston, I just, it was a game yesterday, and I think it's going to be me personally, I think really the best series right now in the opening round. I know we're all Sixered up here, but did you see the end of the Knicks Cavs game yesterday?
It was a bar burner for sure.
And I called it. I said this is going to be the best.
This is going to be like a 7-game series.
Oh yeah. And just the fact that the Knicks went into Cleveland and took game 1, that's saying something, man. Because that Garden's going to be rocking come time for game 3 and 4. Spike Lee will be out there in his orange suit with the glasses.
Yeah, like I said, that's the series to look for. How about you, Al? What's the one thing you could take away from this series?
Kind of steal something Steve said a little bit here earlier. He says, I'm not convinced a healthy Sixers team can't overachieve. That's a double negative. So I'm going to go with like if this team stays healthy, it can make a lot of noise. And I think there's so many pluses to this. You always say you want them to struggle a little bit just because they don't want to get too, comfortable. Like they go into the next series and get walloped because they've just been having kind of an easy skate through round 1. But I mean, showing you a healthy Embiid, a healthy James Harden, PJ Tucker in the playoffs, Tyrese Maxey, like I said, he'll find his spot, just like Tobias did. Tobias had to find his spot. Catch and shoot, fine, be that way. If he can do it, just keep doing it. But a healthy Sixers team, this team, you should have championship aspirations. Not that they didn't have it coming in, but we all sit here as this dreaded round 2, and then if it's of course being the Celtics, dreaded round 2 sounds just so more ominous than it was before. It was even the Celtics. So, we gotta hope that we can have a nice. I hope for 4-game sweep gives this team a plenty of rest and allow the other teams to have to work harder against their opponents and keep giving us the edge, and that's what you have to hope for.
Pat, let me ask you, like, with all these series, right? And I'm going to go over them. Just give me your winner. I mean, we're all taking the Sixers.
And he said winner.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said something else.
I'm sorry to unbuckle his pants.
Thank you. Yeah. See that, man? Right away.
Yeah.
All right.
I heard the belch.
All right. Number 2 seed, Celtics Hawks. Celtics are at 1-0. Celtics. All right. 4 versus 5 Knicks Cavaliers.
I'm going Cavs.
I'm sticking with the Knicks.
I'm going to go Knicks, but I think it's going to go to a 7.
Yeah, I think Knicks in 7 too. All right, Warriors or Kings?
I got Kings.
Yeah, I'm actually going to stick with the Warriors. I think they're playoff tested, even though they're down 1-0. Now, these are the other series for today. Lakers Grizzlies.
Give it to the Grizz.
Lakers.
You think the Lakers? I'm thinking Lakers too. I think the Lakers win it in 7. Heat and Bucks.
They'll make sure LeBron wins. They don't want a LeBron-less.
I think the Bucks are going to win this series, but guess what? I think I think the Heat make it go 7. I think the Bucks get tested.
I think it goes 6. Give it Bucks.
All right, Suns and Clippers.
Suns.
I'm going to go Clippers on that one. Kawhi in the playoffs, deadly.
Healthy. If Durant's healthy enough and he plays like Kevin Durant does, and the other guys, Kawhi's. What's his face? Paul George. Is he even playing?
Don't think so.
So yeah, I'm going to go with the Sun.
All right. Last but not least, Timberwolves and Nuggets.
Nuggets.
It's a good club matchup, but it's probably going to be the Nuggets.
I'm going Oppo, both of you guys. I'm upset city.
Yeah.
I
wouldn't be surprised.
I'm taking the Timberwolves. I don't believe in Denver at all.
Well,
so there's.
You saying they're a fraud first place?
Oh yeah, they're
Fugazi.
Yeah, they're Fugazi. I mean, they are like 1995 Seattle Fugazi. Mm-hmm. If you guys remember that, Mutombo, waving the finger.
No.
Steve wants to know if is it game time if we get if we can't get to the ECF.
What are you giving up for Dame Lillard?
That's the question. I mean, I think Dame backs himself in the corner once he signed.
He could have came here a year ago.
He could have came here probably 2 years ago.
Remember the crowd was chanting his name
when he was here. Yeah,
when he was here.
I mean, maybe Dame's just one of those guys. Okay, not knowing they're never going to win anything. Give you my money. I like where I'm at. You know, I don't know.
You don't want to go nowhere. If he wanted to go anywhere, he would have been. You know, he would have been here.
Well, like I said, Mike, this is for us. This is other than
we go from the good to the.
No, not yet. I'm not going to buckle my pants yet.
Well, matter of fact, go ahead. We all need to laugh.
Yeah, so you only get scarred for a half hour. I mean, it's a tiny little guy. It's like a worm in a bird nest. But no, I'm not. We're not talking about that little
Poor
thing.
Mo.
I keep saying poor Mo, but I'm like, she has to know.
Oh yeah.
Oh, she knows.
Oh yeah.
Some people are masochists in different ways.
But anyway,
why do you think you got such a high pitched voice over here?
Why?
Yeah.
My name's Pat. But listen,
Happy International Women's Day.
Oh man.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mike, let's roll over the sheets here. Let's roll it over here because you got me excited talking about basketball and all this stuff. We're talking about the NBA players. Like other than October, April is my other favorite sport. Other favorite month in sports because you have the NBA playoffs. You have MLB.
Hold on 1 second, not to be a jerk to cut you off, but you said April and October, and we all know why because there's so much sports.
It's 4 for 4.
It's 4 for 4 for the most part. Well, yeah, with the draft, I guess you can consider 4 for 4.
Yeah. It's the beginning of the April.
Let me ask you guys this now. You roll back in time 10 plus years ago, whatever. Yeah. Now doing what we do, knowing that what we have to keep up with, our families on top of watching sports, and not that we weren't going to watch it anyway, but now you got to keep a closer eye, keep your stats, have your notepad next to you at all times. Has that changed a little bit? Are you just like, April or October, like, well, it was nice knowing you, family. I'll see you in November. It's like
no, because my wife loves it. My wife's like, "Oh, you're doing that? Okay, I can go do this." And
see, your wife's smart about it. My
Yes.
my wife gets mad at me more. Like, oh, I guess I'll be with the kids more.
And because my kids are grown.
That's true.
So like my kids are grown. They have families of their own, so I don't have to worry about little ones.
Okay.
So if we did have little ones, then yeah, I could really see her being like, "No, you're not." Like,
sorry, there, Big Daddy, you're staying right where you're at.
Yeah, exactly. Like they can get somebody else to cover something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because one thing I will say, you always got to put family first.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah,
I mean,
that's why I say it.
But me being fortunate and being with my wife, she's just like, go do what you got to do. Oh, you're gonna go do that? Oh, yes, I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she just gets out of the
Well, my
way.
wife knows during draft week that she gets her hair did or whatever. I pay for that because I know that I'm not going to be around a lot. I'll be busy. I'll be at the studio. I'll be doing different things. We'll be on live air for hours on end.
Yeah, I might make my wife breakfast. Here, I fed you. We're good.
No, I'm
So
like,
I'm
here,
gonna
go
pay
get
for
your hair done. That's what I say.
I'm gonna so
That's only about $1,000 or something.
Right. Like
It's like 2 car payments.
like with my wife, like she'll like, you're doing that again? I'm like, yeah, but she understands.
You really got to do that voice, dude. You sound like Edith Bunker.
Oh, gee.
But she understands like why I do it. Obviously, this is my passion and what I love to do, and she understands like look, this is his thing. Let him do what he wants to do. Let him have fun. He's got goals of what he's trying to achieve here, so she understands. Like
He's away from me.
he's away from me. I don't have to smell that smelly bad breath. Like she knows Saturday nights and the Sunday mornings, I'm up through the night like a vampire, doing my notes and all that stuff. Especially April and October. I barely get any sleep because but I enjoy it. It's not like I'm complaining. I enjoy what I'm doing. I love it. I love the passion of doing this.
To answer your question, Al, we'd be right here doing this.
Yeah.
Like even if you would have told me 10 years ago I had a chance of doing that.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying does it seem a little bit more daunting?
No.
Now that you don't.
I get it.
Now it's not just watching and enjoying. It's watching, enjoying, analyzing, breaking
No,
down.
Yes.
Us as fans,
Writing articles, doing shows. Like I'm just saying, like I'm not saying I don't like it. I love doing what we do, but it does in April and October, from what used to become just like veg in front of the couch, became
veg in front of the couch with a laptop.
Knowing that at the end of the game, I got to run downstairs and do a breakdown of what I just watched.
That too.
Be it a great 20-point differential in a Sixers game or a 15-0 walloping you took from the Reds for the Phillies.
Yeah, well, listen, like Getzer, right? You have the Sixers at 1. You had the Phillies at 4. You had the Wings at 7. You have the Union at 8:30. Like, I'm on the couch, so like you have to look for pretty much you have to look at the schedule between all the teams in the city and see where they're off, and you have to play by their schedule. So if no teams are running on that day, that's pretty much your off day. And even still, you still got, like you say, you gotta get your articles. You still got to pump up for the next. And to me, like Monique knows, like April and October, I head into the Batcave, and if you want to sound dorky, yeah, I mean like myself, but I head into the Batcave, like I'm busy, like. Michael Keaton is going to be locked and going and busy in there. That's my laboratory.
Yeah, my wife's like, "Oh, you're in the lab? Okay. Yeah, let me know when you're hungry."
Yeah.
But pretty much it. And then
listen, my wife has learned for the most part. It's a game like take yesterday, for instance. I had to not watch the Phillies game, which I guess in the long run was a good thing for me. I'll be honest.
God.
I went back and watched the breakdown, and as I broke down, watching the breakdown,
it's batting practice.
Because she goes, "Are we going to take the kids to go see the movie?" Because you've been telling them, "You're right, you're right." So let's go after. We'll go. We scheduled it for the time when the Sixers game would be ending and the Phillies game would be just starting, and I had to take that. And I guess it worked out in my favor because the Phillies suck.
Right. So, and with you guys too, like when I pull out all the stuff for when I did the home podcast, and like I put all the equipment up in my closet. I have all the webcam, the lighting. I got all that. The mic. I got all that.
Couch,
yeah. Well, that's hello. But I got all that put away, and then
I just called Mike. I called Mike so well on that.
All right, jeez. But then, like I said, when it's go time, I got to take all that stuff. It's pretty much Batman getting out the utility belt. That's how I see it. So she knows it's time for me to go to work, and she understands. Hey, look, listen, he's trying to, like I said, she understands the goals. She's all about it. So, but listen,
the Papinard only fan will be appearing real soon.
Oh, well, hello.
He would only have a fan. That's why it's called an only fan.
Yeah, listen. But look, let's.
We're having a good time now. We got to bring it down.
Yeah. Let's.
It's the only way you can make yesterday's Phillies game seem.
No. I'm going to hold off Philly because we are going to have our man. Kevin Durso.
Just touch on it. You might as well just
touch on it.
I'm going to touch on it. I'm going to do more of the touching after the interview here. So
why are you poking?
I don't know because
you're not going to have a ton of time to touch after the interview. You might as well start now. I mean, you get 10 minutes, you're almost done.
Yeah, well,
and more than 10 minutes, so you're pretty much going to have 15 minutes of Flyers talk. So
yeah, well, here we go. I mean, if you really want to,
how much can you dive into a 13-0 game?
Well, that's why. Well, because there's a lot to get into it. Because
all right, well, here I'll break it down for you. The Phillies lost 13-0 because they don't have a fifth pitcher. It was a glorified bullpen game. Strom couldn't go more than 2 whatever innings.
3.
Yeah.
Hold on, though. Let's not kill him though, because that dude's given us first 3 starts.
Listen, it's not Strom. Strom isn't built to be a starter.
No.
Listen. We have him as a long man to come out of it. Like when Nola or Wheeler don't have a great game, or any of the other guys have a great game, you could throw Strom in there for a solid 3 innings. Yeah, he's not being. This was a bullpen game, but then Pilati, who's been pretty solid.
He's had too much work. Like they need to give that dude
they would go to him in the bullpen.
Bro, listen, they need to give that dude at least 2 days off.
No, you're not wrong.
Who's the other guy?
He's the new guy.
That dude's bad.
Yeah, he's
bad.
He had that one good inning when he first came in, and then since then it's been
he's bad. Like he needs to go down to triple.
I think his ERA is 18.9.
Well, we can't just bash the bullpen. I mean, there's a lot. The whole, if you look at the pie chart, the whole thing's covered in gray. You have scoring guys. You leave guys in scoring position.
Dude, they've been doing that all year.
I know, but
they've been doing this all year.
We give up bad pitchings. I mean, the feeling's horrible.
We're only 0 for 6. So let's be honest. Let's call it for what it is. Say they were 6 for 6.
Right.
We still lose
by 7 runs.
Yeah, we lost by a touchdown, bro. This team was bad all around yesterday.
Right.
I can't
2 touchdowns yesterday.
Let me ask you a question. Did Stott get a hit
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the only thing that came out of yesterday is Stott is one game away from putting head Jones.
12-game hitting streak.
Well, no, he had 16. He will. Yesterday would have been 15. So if he hits today, he will tie putting head Jones, and then the next game, if he hits again, he will actually break putting head Jones.
Look, it all comes down,
which means jack squat diddly.
Listen,
so it boils down
what
to
are they, 4-10 now? 5-10?
5-10.
They're 5-10. Okay, your first 15. This is where they got to start. Aaron Nolan's got to go out and pitch today. He's got to pitch dominant.
He owes us.
Yeah.
And he has to go full 6 innings at least.
Give him 6 innings, shut them down, give up a run or 2, and that's it. Give this team a chance to.
If he does it, if he has another breakdown inning, it's in between his heads. I don't think it's mechanic anymore. I think it's in between the ears.
Well, I think it's going back to his contract. He might be thinking about the after party. You know what I mean? Like, where am I going to be after the season? And I think that's
going to be on the unemployed line if he pitches the way he does.
Yeah.
Listen, if he wants $200 million, and he's got to go out and pitch like a $200 million.
He's got to walk up to the bullpen before the game. Guys, take your shoes off. Put your legs up. I got this.
Yeah.
I got this.
Yeah, like he's got to go and this is where you got to be that ace. You got to stop this.
Well, and like I said, I hate to throw some salt in the wound from yesterday. Again, Trey Turner 0 for 3, Kyle Schwarber 0 for 3, Castellanos 0 for 4, Marsh 0 for 3. Your best player was Sosa for going 2 for 2. And I don't know Will Myers. I mean, because he looked like Michael Myers yesterday. The way he was killing that ball yesterday, 4 for 5, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs.
Yeah. I mean, that happens. That happens in a 162 game season.
Listen, you're going to get games like I refer to as clunkers. You're going to get clunkers like this.
And yesterday was a bad one.
The problem is we are 15 games in and we've had too many clunkers, and we were hoping to bash our way out of some of these pitching problems, and it's you get a night where you put up 13 runs on one of the best pitchers in baseball against Alcantara, and then you get another night where you were going up against Ashcraft or whatever his name is, and wins whatever,
right?
And they get their butts handed to them.
They did. They got waffled yesterday.
Yesterday was a demoralizing type of game.
But I
they came out down. They stayed down, and their heads never left. Their chins never left their chest.
Right. And like I said, Friday, you look great. Like you said, you think you could build some momentum off of it, and then you laid like a flat tire. It was terrible.
But dude, you got to take a look too. Look all around the National League. Nobody's running away with anything in the National League. Like the Phillies, for as bad as they played right now, they're 4.5 back of Atlanta.
Yeah, we're lucky that the East isn't like we're.
I mean, the Mets have fallen off. I mean, the Mets are
both. There's not a team in this league that's running away with it with 2 losses of the season already.
Dude, look at
Tampa in our division.
Look at Houston. Houston's record's damn near mirroring the Phillies.
Listen, that's why. Looks like. Hold on 1 second.
All right. Well, listen. We might have to talk about this Philly nonsense after this great, interview, because on the line with us right now, the Flyers insider from 97.3 South Jersey ESPN is our man Kevin Durso. Kevin, what's up?
Hey, what's up, guys? Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. Listen, we're sitting here scratching our hair and losing our hair about the Philadelphia Phillies, but enough with the Phillies. We wanted to bring you on to talk some Flyers. Now, Flyers finished with 31 wins and some losses. So obviously some losses, but obviously
just some.
I mean, obviously they didn't make the postseason. But what's your take on this Flyers season? At 31 wins, 38 losses. What's your finish? What's your take on this Flyers season?
Well, I think it went mostly as expected. I mean, missing the playoffs was expected. I think that John Tortorella got a lot out of the players that he had. It wasn't a good roster on paper. They still made some noise at times through wins, more wins than I think a lot of people would have expected. I certainly probably still had them in the 20 to 25 range this year, kind of like last year. They got a few more than that. So certainly they maximized what they had, but they still aren't close to being a playoff team when you look at the rest of the league and when you look at the way that other teams both carry themselves, the way that their rosters are constructed. It's a team that just doesn't have enough high-end talent to come anywhere close to competing for a spot in the playoffs. And, that's the thing this time of year that gets everybody excited, is if you have that team that has one or two star players that you can lean on in games and that make a bunch of plays and then carry you into the playoffs and make you feel like you have a shot in the playoffs. This team's not there yet. If nothing else, I think the big thing this season that's progress is admitting what they are and taking the steps necessary to go into the rebuild that they need to do, and now about sticking with that process. So that's really my main takeaway from the season, is that, finally, after a long period of time of wondering if and when any big changes were going to happen, they fired Chuck Fletcher. They have Danny Briere holding the interim tag for now. Sure seems like he's going to get the GM job full time and permanently. And the next step is sticking to what Briere talked about at his introductory press conference, sticking with a rebuild process and taking the steps necessary to get this team back to a level that people expect in this city.
Kevin, this is Mike. I just want to ask you, with everything that was going on this year with Kevin Hayes, do you expect him to get moved this offseason?
Yeah, I do. And I think he does too, actually, to be honest. I mean, the way that he was speaking on Friday when they had exit interviews sure sounds like a guy who doesn't expect to be back, who feels like a decision's already been made on his future. It's not that easy, what Danny Briere is going to have to do, assuming he takes over permanently in the GM job and that's his job to move the contract. There's work to be done with that because it's not the easiest contract to move. The Flyers are going to have to get creative on that front in terms of, deals with term don't move easily. So he's still got 3 years left on that contract. It's a $7.14 million cap hit. There's almost definitely going to have to be salary retained in order to move it. But I do think that you also have to look at the circumstances, and that's what makes it easier to determine whether a guy stays or goes. He just looked lifeless for the second half of the season, pretty much post All-Star break, and he talked about it, going from being a player that was leaned on for bigger minutes to playing maybe 9-10 minutes a night. And that's just the product. I don't know if that's completely a product of they decided to stop playing him. I think that some of the way that Hayes played in the second half probably dictated that down the line. He just wasn't anywhere close to being a level player that A, warrants his contract, and B, that warrants the playing time in the lineup. And that's how John Tortorella operates, is that if you're not playing the way that you should, you're not going to see the ice as often. And that's how it went. But I do think that that's headed for a likely trade. And as Hayes said, probably find out more around the draft, because that's when those types of deals usually go down.
Yeah. And hey, Kevin, and speaking of John Tortorella, what is your overall outlook on him this past year? Because I thought heading with this team, he was going to at some point, pop like a balloon, with all the frustrations from the front office to the style the team played, the lackluster offensive performance. But I just think he took it in for what he had, and he's been calm throughout this whole process. What's your take on John Tortorella on the, like I said, overall outlook?
Well, I think a lot of us were expecting at some point that it would come to a head and he would have kind of that major blow up that he's known for at some point. I think the key here is that he does those types of things on his time. When he feels the need to defend his team or to say something a certain way, or where he's in control of going down that path, most of the time he actually turned it the other direction. It would be, maybe people like me on the media side of things saying something about the team, and he's going to defend the team vehemently because now you're talking down about his team as opposed to him having the control of doing it. That's kind of how he handled things. That's why I don't think we ever got that blow up that we were, maybe expecting from him. But overall, I don't have a problem with him talking the way that he does. I think actually he's a big reason why a lot of what happened around the organization did, because he really called to light a lot of the issues that a lot of us have been seeing for a long period of time about trying to evolve the franchise and about getting kind of out of the ways of the past and not being afraid to go down the path of rebuild and doing it the right way. He said all those things throughout the year, and by year's end, you get through a trade deadline where nothing really happens. Chuck Fletcher gets fired a week later. There's, Dan Hilferty's going to be the new CEO of Comcast Spectacor, the new chairman and governor of the Flyers coming up in a few weeks, and it's all of a sudden you're seeing a lot of major changes happening. And I don't think that would have happened with any other head coach just kind of going through the motions. If this was, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, that they carried over from last year and Mike Yeo stayed on as the head coach after being the interim following the firing of Alain Vigneault, I don't think you would have seen Mike Yeo say anything about the situation to that extent. And instead, John Tortorella brought all that to light. Now, in saying that, the area where I'm careful about what John Tortorella does moving forward is more. I just don't think you can allow him. He talked a lot about don't overstep your bounds, kind of stay in your lane, and people staying in their lane within the organization. I think that he needs to follow through on that as well and not have the greatest say on roster construction, because I think that down the line, I mean, it's okay if he's going to kind of have a say about maybe a player he would want in on a 1-year deal that you think could overachieve and get you something in this process. You got to kind of take that direction if you're going to go out and sign a player this offseason to a 1-year deal, keeping it, low cap hit and keeping it in a position where that guy can be moved at the trade deadline, no harm, no foul. You're not looking at next season as a true contending season. But I don't think you can let him latch on to a player and say, this is a guy I want for the whole rebuild and beyond and all of that type of stuff, because his influence is probably not going to take it in the speed and skill direction that the rest of the league is going. You're going to end up with kind of similar to this year. You're going to end up with a bunch of players who are grinders, players who kind of play in that middle 6 role or, lower defensive pairing roles and are more physical, block a lot of shots, that kind of stuff. And that's great to fill out your roster, but you've got to also get some star power in here eventually. And I don't think you can commit long term to any player like that. So you got to be careful with how much influence he has on roster construction going forward. But certainly from a coaching standpoint, he definitely got something out of a lot of players that are going to be able to stick around beyond this year. Guys like Noah Cates and Owen Tippett seem to kind of gravitate towards his style and maximize their play. And then you've got, what he did for the whole organization, kind of bringing to light some issues that require change and that now have started to change so the franchise can move forward.
Hey, Kev, this is Al. You kind of brought it up, and I think they brought Torts in because I don't think they wanted a yes man. To be honest with you, they wanted somebody who would, maybe not to the extent of what Torts is sometimes, but my question is the timing of everything they did. Obviously, you kind of alluded to it that Danny Briere is going to probably stay as the head, GM, not just the interim, because I don't know how you can bring somebody in now and expect changes to be made. Because he waited. Why would they wait to 6 weeks before the season ends to finally say, all right, Chuck Fletcher, you're out? And why would they wait to about a week or two of the last season before they moved Torts from the bench onto the box because they wanted the other guys to try out? You know what I mean? It seemed like all right, we're going to tank now. Why did everything seem a little later than we all thought it should have been?
Well, I can answer the coaching one pretty easily. That's just strictly Tortorella making that call for himself. So there's not really as much to that. I know there was a lot of speculation by seeing Tortorella kind of go upstairs and wondering if he was going to be a guy who wanted to jump out of the behind the bench role and go into something greater in the front office. He's assured he doesn't want to do that. He coaches, and I don't see that changing. I think it's just something he's trying to do with his coaching staff to kind of, I guess when you kind of go through a slog of a season like this has been, you kind of look for anything you can do to kind of make it worth your while, I guess, for the assistants too. So I don't really read too much into Tortorella getting off the bench. I don't think it was a true tanking move per se. It was just something that Tortorella, I think, likes to do to kind of reward the assistants that he works closely with. And he's obviously got a great relationship with Brad Shaw, who's one of the assistants here, who worked with him in Columbus. He had Darrell Williams, who's an assistant here as a video coach in Vancouver. So he knows the guys on the bench a little bit. He didn't really know Rocky Thompson coming in. But still, when you work with these guys all year long, I think you kind of just build a rapport with them and want to kind of do something, maybe just kind of throw them a bone and say, this is a kind of reward for, the season that's going on here, have a chance to coach the team legitimately as the head coach, acting head coach. And he goes upstairs or goes into another room to watch the rest of the game. As for the general manager thing, your guess is as good as mine on why they waited. I didn't get it either. I mean, there were plenty of opportunities this season to do this. They had a 10-game losing streak in November that really a lot of us thought was the downfall of Chuck Fletcher. It should have been anyway. I mean, I had doubts that Chuck Fletcher was going to last much longer as the offseason carried on last year, just the way that things played out. And the writing was on the wall that it was time. It just seemed like everybody except the people within the organization realized it until finally, the way that kind of things came to a head with the trade deadline. And I kind of have outlined this several times over the last several weeks where it's, they played a game 2 days before the trade deadline at home against the Rangers. The building was, if not sold out, near sold out. Tons of Rangers fans in the building. I think that woke a lot of people up. And then 2 days later, when the deadline went the way it did, again, people were obviously frustrated and angry and ready for a change. They had, the vitriol they had toward that situation carried over into the next day. They had a season ticket holder event where Chuck Fletcher got booed coming on stage and all that type of stuff. And I think that the fan reaction finally got through to the people who make the decisions. And that was finally the final straw in terms of just making that type of change. It should have happened long ago. I don't understand why. There was plenty of reasons to not let Chuck Fletcher do more than what he was already doing in terms of, the amount of losing streaks that they had, the amount of trade deadlines he got to handle, off seasons he got to handle. We watched, all of these situations play out, having major questions about, is there a plan for this team? What direction are they going? We don't really know. It didn't make a lot of sense. Finally, it came to a head. But yeah, in terms of the timing, it was baffling timing because you waited a really long time to make that call, and a lot of damage can be done by waiting that long and letting a general manager who ultimately now does not have a future with the team do a lot of things prior, handle off seasons, handle trade deadlines, not make much progress in terms of building a team. Those things can come back to haunt you when you do finally decide to go into a rebuild in terms of the timeline that it's going to take to get out of that. So I didn't understand the timing either. And, but at least it's happened to this point now, and you've got, now at least it feels like you have your wheels in motion moving forward instead of kind of just staying in the same place. So that's the progress for now, but certainly I didn't understand the timing when it happened.
Well, I got one. This is Mike again. With the core of these young stars, do you see some of the older talent that has been here for a while, like a Provorov? Do you see guys like that getting moved out of here? I like the core group of guys that we have, like Morgan Frost, Farabee, Owen Tippett, um, Tyson Forrester. I mean, some of these young kids that come up, I like the core that we have. But do you see guys like I said, like an Ivan Provorov? Would he be on the market for like maybe trade or you know? Kev, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry, guys. I cut out for a second. Yeah, no, I mean, in terms of guys who may be on the move, I kind of listed out in my takeaways article a few days ago. There's 4 pretty common names that I think that you're going to hear a lot in terms of moving out, and 2 are pretty obvious. I think 2 have already had the question answered. Justin Braun's retiring. James Van Riemsdyk really doesn't sound like he's going to be back, nor should he for the direction that they're going. His contract's up. That's the end of that. We already talked about Kevin Hayes, and I think Tony DeAngelo's name is going to come up a lot just given the way that the season ended, and and all of that, the way that relationship appears to be going. I think that his name's going to come up a lot about being moved as well. Then you get into the tier of guys like Provorov. I include Travis Konecny in that group as well, in terms of you got these guys who are in that age group, and Provorov's 26, so you've got guys who are in that age group who are teetering on the edge of being part of a long-term rebuild and being part of the solution to getting out of the rebuild by moving. I think that everything's on the table this offseason. I don't think that there's anything that they won't listen on if the price is right for them. There are guys, I think, and again, I think Provorov and Konecny kind of fall into this category as well. You're going to have to wow them with your offer. You're going to need to make an offer they can't refuse to make them trade that player, given what they give to the team. Konecny was a 30-goal scorer this year, despite missing time with injury. Provorov didn't have a great season, but Provorov plays a big role. He plays a lot of minutes, and I don't think people are going to realize, for as poor as his season felt like it was in terms of performance on the ice, it's hard to replace the ice time. So I don't think people realize how hard that's going to be to fill with the rest of the current roster when just to move him out. And you better make sure you get the right value in return for something like that if you're going to move him. So that's kind of the category that falls into. But there's really not many players on the roster that I can say with certainty that I expect back. I feel like Noah Cates fits into that group. Owen Tippett's in that group. I don't see them moving Joel Farabee, but again, I don't think he's off the table just because there was a period of time where his future looked a little bit cloudy in terms of, he wasn't playing, the idea that he needed to do a lot more. I think he took the message and ran with it for the rest of the year from that point, but that still leaves some questions. So I don't look at anybody and say you're safe completely. And, I know another name that's been out there a lot that people are kind of curious about is Carter Hart. I don't think even he is completely unavailable. I'm not actively looking to trade him, but I'm also not sitting here turning away a phone call asking about his availability if someone's got an offer out for him that may be worth your while in terms of getting the assets back that you need to start this rebuild in full force. That's really what it comes down to, is if you can get something great in return, I think you have to listen, but I'm not actively trading certain guys if the offer's not good enough.
Yeah, Kevin. So, you kind of enlightened me with a lot of trade talk, right? So let me ask you a question here. You mentioned about TK having 31 goals, 30 assists. You mentioned about Carter Hart being possibly on the table for a trade. Also, you had two or three nice shutouts this year. If you wind up being that, I would say the 6th overall pick in the NHL draft, to say, is there a way you can package that up into a deal and with just say Morgan Frost maybe with 18 goals and 25 cents? Can you package that up and try and get that number 1 overall pick to get that Connor Bedard sweepstakes? That we need that overall stud again. I haven't seen an overall stud here since Lindros. So if he's eyed up to what what everyone says he's going to be, and he's going to be that stud, once in a generational talent. Can we package that up into a deal and possibly grab this guy?
I don't think you can package anything to get him, only because the rest of the league is too smart for that, basically. I think that whoever wins that lottery is keeping that pick at 1st overall. What I do think you can look to explore, and I do think Briere is going to look to do as GM, is potentially make a deal using whatever pick they get, and assuming they don't win one of the top 2 lottery spots, which would solve all of your problems, in and of itself in terms of the draft, then they would pick 7th, 8th, or 9th based on the lottery, the way that it could go. Then I could see them trying to figure out a package option to maybe move back up at least into the top 4. That's really where the top talent is, that elite tier that you can't deny is going to be something successful in the league moving forward. Obviously, all the focus is on Bedard, but there's really only one way to get Connor Bedard at this point, and that's winning the lottery. If you don't win the lottery, I don't see a team out there that doesn't know what this kid's going to bring to their lineup. Anaheim's the team with the top odds for the 1st overall pick going into the lottery, and if they were to win it, and you look at the rest of their group, you got guys like Trevor Zegras and Troy Terry and Mason McTavish, all these guys who are up and coming as forwards, and you throw Bedard into the mix, they'd be crazy to move that pick for anything. Even if a team was willing to come to them with this massive package, it's just not going to happen. So that's really where the trade up option comes into play, is not for Bedard, but for maybe any of the other picks. I find it hard pressed someone would go and trade number 2 as well, especially if somebody jumps into the spot, just because Adam Fantilli is not a bad consolation prize for not getting Bedard. But I do think that anything beyond that, you could possibly entertain the idea of a trade to move up. But I do think it kind of comes back to, and I've talked a lot about this over the years, you've got to be creative in the front office to make a move that's going to kind of just elevate you to that level. So really, there's not going to be much conversation to be had about this topic until the lottery plays out on May 8th. But then after that, we'll see what happens in the weeks that come, after that, and see if there's anything that they can come up with if they want to try to move up and get back into the top 5 potentially, to see if they can't get one of these players who could be a difference maker down the road. That's certainly it's certainly a start for what they need. I don't think that Bedard or Fantilli or anybody at the top of the draft is coming in here and transforming the team overnight, but it can be that foundational piece that they lack so desperately that could make a difference. So we'll see how the lottery plays out, and then we'll see if they can get creative. But I'm not overly expecting them to do anything like that, because I think the rest of the league is just going to just drive the price up too high for what they can do at their current state of a rebuild.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've seen around the league, Ron Hextall gets fired from the Pittsburgh Penguins. I mean, 16 years, and this is the first year they don't make the playoffs. You see Peter Laviolette being let go by the Capitals. First time in a long time, you don't get NHL playoffs without Sidney Crosby or Alex Ovechkin. So let me ask you now, it's kind of not wide open. Who's going to be your NHL Stanley Cup finalists?
So the two finalists for me, it takes a lot it's a lot to break down because you got to go through and kind of consider the scenarios of the teams that may be surprises and things like that. I just don't know how you can pick against the two hottest teams out there coming into it. So I would have Boston out of the East. Boston with their record-setting season, 65 wins. Set a new points record as well. Like that team's just a wagon right now in terms of what they've got. Everybody pitching in, everybody playing with confidence at an all-time high. It's just been a remarkable story to watch, and I don't see anybody coming through them right now. I just don't see how, as long as they stay healthy, how anybody's going to top what they've been able to do and do it consistently enough over the course of a 7-game series. On the West side, for me, I got to look at Edmonton and the way that they've kind of played going into the playoffs. I think that you've got the best player in the world in Connor McDavid. Leon Draisaitl's not a bad number 2, obviously, at that point. And then a bunch of other guys who have been pitching in. Like, that team all of a sudden really found their depth, and it's coming at the right time for them. And I similarly think that they're going to be a really hard team to knock out of the playoffs. So that would be my team out of the West for, as of today, and the playoffs start tomorrow. So that's the team that I'm looking at out of the West. I do like a couple of others, in terms of the conference finals. I would see Boston probably playing a team like the Rangers just because, they're going to have to go through the entire Atlantic. So it won't be Tampa. It won't be Toronto that they face in the conference final. So it's not one of those top teams. I don't see a wild card making some shocking run, maybe beyond the first round. So that's where I kind of go from there for the East. And on the West, I really think Dallas is a team that people are sleeping on too. Kind of as, a team that's going to get pretty far. I don't know if they can top, if they can top Edmonton, and they'll have a challenge if they have to play Colorado in the second round. But certainly I think that Dallas has the makings of a team that's got the foundation laid really well as well. So those are 4 teams that I would say are probably the last 4 standing.
That's funny you mentioned that, Kevin, because that's who I have winning the Cup. I have Dallas Stars winning it.
And that'd be great, honestly. I mean, I think that they've done it the right way. That you look at the way that they drafted, especially in 2017. Jason Robertson's a great player, who's got a lot of skill, got the scoring talent to do it. Miro Heiskanen's great on the back end, and then Jake Ottinger in goal. They've got that foundational piece at every position. That's why they're going to be a tough out in the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But look, Kevin, before we let you go, where can we find you at? I mean, obviously 97.3 ESPN South Jersey. Do you have anywhere else can people check you out at?
Sure. So you can follow me on Twitter at Kevin_Durso. Also on sportstalkphilly.com. I post some stuff over there as well, in addition to the ESPN side. Co-host the YWT podcast. That's the You Would Think podcast as well. So that's a couple of things there's a couple other places where you can find me.
All right, Kevin. Listen, I love talking hockey with you. I love talking Flyers hockey with you. Maybe next year things could turn around. We'll see what they do in the summer, making some kind of splashes. But Kevin, thank you so much for hopping on with us, and enjoy the rest of your day, my man.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Hey, you too.
Thanks, Kev. Guys, that interview was brought to you by CherryInjuryLaw.com. David R. Cherry is your man. If you get hurt at work, motor vehicle accident, personal injury, or criminal law, call Dave at 610-565-0300. Or like I said, go to CherryInjuryLaw.com. And I made some announcements on the Phillies post-game shows. Dolan's Wiffle Ball Madness will be back. I'll have all the information for you shortly. But I'll just, like I teased earlier, there'll be some big names that we've all loved over the last 20 years here in Philadelphia sports playing in Wiffle Ball Madness. Plus, possibly guys representing all 4 major teams. We'll get to that later. Yeah, we'll get to that later. But go down to Dolan's, check it out. Tell PJ we sent you. 24 East Sellers Avenue, Ridley Park. Quizzo music, great times. And like I said, you never know who's going to be walking through them doors.
Absolutely. So before we get the heck out of here, I got to talk with you gentlemen. And so,
Daddy's man.
No. Prior to us, having this Flyers conversation with Kevin, I want to ask you guys two things. One, was last year's Philly season a fluke? Now I'm starting to think about it. Is Rob Thompson a good manager, or are you starting to have some questionable doubts about the guy? And two, we've heard all around the rumors. Do you think they're trying to rush back Bryce Harper because the team looks like they're heading for the basement? They want to try to establish this season. So, Al, I'll start with you first.
Actually, looking at Mike's face, you might want to start with him.
Mike.
Before he explodes, I'm just saying.
Dude, you really capped my ass. You really do.
Oh, hello?
You do.
What?
These questions. Oh, it's a fun. Dude, relax. Take a deep breath. They don't
15
have
games.
They're 15 games in. Relax. The defending world champions have one more win than the Phillies do. The two teams that played in the World Series have a combined 11 wins. Relax, bro. Pump the brakes. It's going to be okay. The Phillies have.
How do you know? It looks like it's
How do you know that they're not? They do not.
I think last year was a fluke.
Oh, stop. You think everything was a fluke, but you'll be right there with your pom-poms ready and batting them in the air. So, no. You got to let it play out, Pat. You got to let it play out. Just stop. No, the teams that are in front of them right now are not dealing with what the Phillies are dealing with right now. They're not. They're not on their first baseman. They're not having 2/5 of their starting rotation or 3/5 of their starting rotation out. Or 2/5. I'm sorry, 2/5 of your starting rotation out. Like, come on, stop. The Mets ain't going through that. The Braves ain't going through that right now.
That's what I'm saying. I think they're trying to rush Bryce Harper back
They're
here.
not trying to rush him back. Dude, stop. They are committed to this guy for what? He's been here, 4 years now? It's his fourth year with the Phillies? He's right. This is his fourth year with
This
him,
will
right?
be the fifth year. Yeah.
Fifth.
Fifth
Yeah.
year?
Yeah, right?
All right.
Yeah, fourth or fifth, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. So they got him for another 8-9 years. They want him available in those 8-9. They're not going to rush him back. They're not going to rush him back. The dude, when he came up, was a catcher. He could play catcher. He played multiple positions. They're just going to experiment with putting him at first base. How hard of a throw does he have to make at first base? They're actually protecting his arm while still being able to get his bat in the lineup. Yes, they are missing his bat. But I also feel like you've been kind of unfair coming in here. You were lambasting Castellanos a little bit ago. He went 0 for 4. Dude, the guy's been raking. His power numbers ain't there, but he's raking.
I'm just saying what he won for it yesterday. I never said he was, an overall bad player. Again, he leads the league in doubles.
Well, I'm going to put it this way. Last April, they were 500. They were at 11-11.
Right.
I was pulling up the stats. So they were 11-11 last April.
I hope they go like 9-16 in April. I could care less about April. You want to know why? Because your division's not won in April. And that whole bull that you can lose in April, well, guess what? They kind of proved last year that, you can lose it in April, but it doesn't mean you can't get into the playoffs. They were the hottest team.
So you're not pushing the panic button.
No, and you can't push the panic. Not after 15 games. If this was the middle of June and they were,
Oh, yeah, you'll be sweating somewhere.
Well, not even then. I mean, if you take a look at it, what was it, mid-June or was it early June, right? When Thompson got released? Or
Girardi.
When Girardi got released and Thompson took over. So
early June.
Yeah, they were 21-29. So they were 8 games under 500 when he took over.
But I'm just asking, do you think he's a good, solid manager right now?
Yeah, he's a good manager. Dude, they listen to him. Like, they buy into what he brings to that clubhouse. He brings a calmness to that clubhouse. You don't see him overreacting.
You looked a little frustrated yesterday.
Well, of course, your team just got smoked 13-0. Yeah, that would put a chap on anybody's behind. But see, look, right away. But no, you can't. You can't. It is way too early in the season. They play 162 games for a reason. I'm not going to get even remotely. Like, we've seen teams have a bad first half. Look at the Washington Nationals a couple years ago.
Oh, I know. I mean,
the Braves were
they won. Nationals, and then the next year the Braves. Both
look at the 2022 Philadelphia Phillies. People are ready to throw this team out of any playoff contention. In May.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because usually when you fire a coach, you're going to be your guinea pig. Usually the team rally routes because next it's going to be you. So let me ask. That's why I'm kind of asking the question: was last year a fluke, or do you think they could catch fire at some point and turn this all around.
What part of fluke do you get from last year? That's what I want to know. Where was there a fluke last year?
Yeah, just the hot streak that they went on from June all the way up. Do you think?
So you're telling me the team that gets hot and in baseball during the playoffs is the team that usually goes to the World Series? Yeah, that happens for everybody. It's not a fluke. That's how it works. You can have the greatest. Let's talk about the Mets for a second.
They were wire to wire last year, and what happened? They got bounced.
And quickly in an open division because they fell apart. It is not a fluke. There was no flukiness about it. It is baseball. It is a marathon. It is a boxing match where you're going toe-to-toe for 15 rounds. You know what I mean? You're not going to blow your load in rounds 1 and 2 because rounds 3 through 15, you're going to get your ass walloped. And that's just what's going to happen. So this team is coming in and dealing with a lot of injuries. I'm not making excuses here. But this team is having a lot of issues right now. And part of it, it's reflecting on everything. You could see it when they play certain times. You saw a couple games ago when they were playing the Marlins, and what's his name? Schwarber just threw that ball like 15 feet over JT's head from right field because he was just forcing something. We see them trying the base running. You see them, they're trying to make something happen. They know the lack of no Bryce Harper or no Rhys Hoskins or the pitching. They know what they're dealing with. And here, Steve's going to say, we have 6 players around 300. But base running and bad runners in scoring position and walks are killers. Yes. The optics with Girardi, we way worse. Yeah, like I said, we were way worse with Girardi, and Girardi wouldn't break stride. Rob, listen, you're always going to question when teams are not doing good. I'll be honest with you. I think I said on your show right before the season started, I would not be surprised they came out to kind of a sluggish start. I thought it may have been more from the bats than it would be from the pitching. But because of all the injuries, it makes sense now.
Well, like I said, you pull out the pie chart. I just think there's a lot of gray areas from the base running, from the fielding, from the offensive, lack of production. I mean, it's
they're
horrible.
Producing. They're just not producing in spurts. I know one guy. They're gonna have guys with good hits, like he said.
That's bad. Now look, that's bad. You got a Red Sox fan telling you want to pack in the Philly season already.
I don't think he wants to pack it in, but
oh yes, he is. He's hopping right off of that bandwagon. My man's going to have saddle sores as much as he's going to be off and on the Phillies bandwagon this year. He's going to have saddle sores.
I'm just saying. I mean, it's just blatantly obvious to me. I'm starting to think that last year.
Oh, stop!
Is it hard to swallow that you're not defending?
Nothing's hard for him to swallow, bro.
Good call. That your National League defending champions are 4th in their division. Yeah, okay, fine. They're 5 and 10. Fine.
So what?
So,
I could care less.
If this team ends up being 500 at the end of April, I'm actually happy, knowing that what they have to. At least we're doing with the injuries now. Mm-hmm. Not later in the season. Deal with it now. I mean, it smells like Rangers not too far from making a return.
Yeah.
I'm guessing
Painter's not that far off either.
I'm guessing it's like, again, hold your head above water to May. You're going to see those guys come back. Guys like Strom will be out of the back in the bullpen.
I'll tell you what. You know what? As much as people are going to kill Bailey Falter, I thought he's pitched great.
I don't think Bailey's out.
I think he's.
I don't think Bailey's out. I think they stick with 6.
Yeah, they for the early part, but I think with Painter,
especially with Painter, unless Painter comes in and just falls out.
I see him pitch twice.
I know. I'm just saying
he's the real deal.
But you know how guys, even the greats of the great. I always use the Roy Halladay scenario. That man had to go back down to the minors for a while.
Listen, I just want the Phillies to have that great young phenom. Everybody else always gets it but us. Yeah. You know what I mean? They do. It always seems to happen everywhere else but us. Steve is right.
You're absolutely right.
They are killing Bilotti. Like if I'm Bilotti,
I worry about Alvarado too. I mean, he's been doing a lot better than Bilotti has, but you're going to burn him out in April before he becomes useless in August.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Soto's picked up his game too a little bit. So with me, I can definitely see, them pulling back a little bit. They need with Strom going back maybe into the bullpen. We'll give guys like Alvarado a break. Maybe use Soto a little bit more too. But Bilotti definitely. Like if I'm Bilotti, I'm going in Topper's office. Like, bro, I'm requesting a 10-day disabled list stint, please. because like they just been eating his
Yeah.
butt up.
So I mean, but
10-day vacation list. You know,
Yeah.
DL.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's gonna be a 5-day DL trip,
Yeah.
retroactive.
like I said, the feeling has been bad. The outfielding has been bad. I mean, hell, you saw that one kid yesterday. The kid, the ball kid. He made a dive and catch better than anyone on the Phillies. That was embarrassing. So
Yeah. Well, listen, that was an embarrassing day.
mhm.
Out of 162, yes, that was an embarrassing day.
I like
Okay.
this from Steve right here. Pache Clemens and Cave are just not MLB players. Period. I
Why?
agree.
Because they're bench players. Like I don't understand that.
Stop with the too early stuff. Fundamentally, this team is lacking right now. Base running issues, lack of overall pitching depth, no bench, mid-April, whatever. The team is.
Thank you, Matt.
Like, listen, the team is, I wouldn't say sinking, but stinking is a better word for it.
Really?
The team is stinking right now. I can't, listen, base running can be fixed. The pitching, I put a little bit on the pitch timer because the older guys, I said this before the season started. The guys who are going to struggle with this are the older guys, okay? They got to get used to it. They got to get used to the pace. They got to get used to that stuff. This team is lacking. I will agree with it. Sinking is not a term I want to use. Stinking right now will be.
Is that the base run coaches are like? That's what I'm blaming on. Like they tell guys like.
Unless they're not listening to him. I mean,
no, I think like they're giving like the wrong signals. Like you saw last week, right, where the third base coach was obviously telling him to hustle around third, and no, he should have stopped that third.
He knew he was wrong. I mean,
yeah,
he was wrong.
I think right. Again, I think the base run coaches are at fault for. Obviously, for the base run.
All right. Well, listen, that's one out of how many times they.
Yeah, like you can't get mad at a base.
No, I mean, but it's been like all week though.
You can't get mad at a base coach when a guy makes a wide turn at second and runs past the bag.
I said, yesterday wasn't base running issues.
No, yesterday was just
even running and scoring.
It's offense. It's
runners in scoring position. They left 6.
Again,
if they got all 6, they still would have lost.
Right. Touchdown.
Right, like I said, if it ain't
this team pitching was tired.
Right, I mean, it just sucks because it's inconsistent bats, and if it ain't the bats, it's the bullpen. If it ain't the bullpen, it's the base running.
Dude, welcome to baseball. Welcome to it. Doesn't go the way you want it to go. You got to remember.
You're the NL champions. You know what
that means. You played a month longer than everybody else.
Can I ask you a question?
You played a month longer than everybody else.
Would you be happy if this team ends with 100 wins?
With 100 wins?
Yeah. You're not happy with a team winning with 100 wins?
Yeah, I would be happy.
All right, yes, because that's a good record, right?
Right.
That means there's 62 losses on your schedule, bro. Just remember that. That's what I'm saying. Like, yes, they're coming a lot right now, and I'm not ready to wave the white flag like some guys are.
No,
I went back and forth with this with Matty B last season when I was working with him with the Fighting Five in the beginning. Like,
yeah, no, I'm arguing with him a lot too.
Yeah, like
he's another one. Him and Pat. No, that's why they get along so well. They're part of the same ship.
Well, we are from the Northeast.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's your Mayfair boys.
So that's that low altitude.
Yeah, low altitude.
I don't know. I
saw that pizza up there.
Something in that water there. Yeah, no. I mean, listen, it's not fun. Nobody thought this from the 2022 defending National League champs that we would come out to a 5-10.
I thought that they were going to come out to a slow start.
I thought it'd be a little bit more closer to 500.
The only reason why I'm saying that is because, again, they've played a month more than everybody else, which means you have shorter recovery time. So, yeah, it's only natural that they're going to start out slow. Again,
we know, Fuge. We know. We're lumping you in there too, bro.
We're lumping you in there.
Come on in, Fuge.
Fuge, you're not helping the argument.
Yeah, Fuge. Come in under our canoe.
Yeah,
it's me, you, and Matty B. We're all in the same canoe.
Jump in that pool.
Yes.
I'm the Lone Ranger. I'm the
very shallow pool.
I'm a Kenzo.
You got a Delco pool here versus a.
Whoa. No Delco. I'm Delco by just moving here, dude. I'm Kenzo originally.
Oh, okay. Now I think about that, Mike. With Delco Day coming up on June 10th, I should have you sworn in as a Delconian.
I will. I'm still going to.
Anybody who's lived in Delco or lived in Delco for a certain amount of time,
you have to be sworn in.
You can get sworn in.
Well, I worked in Delco. Can I come in?
No,
I got pants. I mean,
we got enough knuckleheads. We got enough knuckleheads. No, we don't need to have it. We don't need to throw another one in this.
Can we end this? Yeah, he wants to end this with I'm bringing pants. That's what he just said. I'm bringing pants. Can I get in? I'm bringing pants. Oh, Lord, we got to go.
On that, we want to thank our sponsors over at cherryinjurylaw.com, cherrystickets.com, phillysportstrips.com, and, of course, Dolan's Bar and dolansbar.com. Other than that, guys, this train has derailed.
Yes.
Have a great Sunday.
Yes.
Have a great Sunday, guys.
Go Phils.